Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Backstory: I have multiple sclerosis and use a power chair when I leave the house. I've never been known for being boring, so I decided to deck my chair out with a Wonder Woman costume, complete with a cape. I've been using the chair for a few years now and actually get compliments on how well I can control and maneuver it. But anyway, one day I felt like getting out of the house, so I went down to my local shopping center to have a look around. I had just gotten there and was near the entrance, which of course is always fairly crowded. There were people in front of me and no space to go around them, so I was going at a slow walking speed. I can go a lot faster, but I tend to match my speed to the people around me unless I have a clear path. Then all of a sudden, I feel a slap on my arm. I stop in my tracks and turn my head to see this 40-something Karen, who had just passed me going in the opposite direction to me, who snaps, "Slow down!" I have quite the timber on me, so I was super proud that my only response was, "Get screwed." I didn't even yell while saying it, just said it in my regular voice. She then started in on some "How dare you" crap, but I just stopped listening and rolled my eyes as I got away from her. Again, I need to stress I was going walking speed, not even a fast walking speed, as I was matching the pace of the people strolling in front of me. I continued on my way and grabbed a coffee, but I started to get really angry. Who slaps a random person, let alone one in a wheelchair who could have been seriously injured by such an action? So I went to the shopping center office to inquire if they had security footage and told them of the incident. They confirmed they would and would gladly cooperate with the police. So I went across the street to report it. The cop was a bit annoyed at me at first for telling the lady to get screwed, but I pointed out that this was after she had assaulted me, so it was all good. There are weird laws here in Australia about swearing at people, even though we are kinda known for it as a country. They took the report and said they would get the tapes from the shopping center to see if they could identify her, and they told me if I saw her again, to just ignore her, but to film any interaction occurred. A few days after the incident, I got a phone call that they were able to identify the lady, and this wasn't even her first incident, as she seems to have caused a lot of trouble before with other people. I then said that I want to press charges against her for assault, and I will be heading to the police station to do so. And let's hope she gets what she deserves. Story time. Last September, my wife had planned a wonderful Father's Day present for me. Father's Day is in September in Australia. This was to be my first ever Father's Day as a new dad. So, to mark the occasion, my wife had arranged to have our daughter's face laser etched into a dog tag. However, the day before Father's Day, she received the item back and it was, shall we say, subpar, so she came to me and showed me my present early. Now, I've had some experience with bad retailers before, and remember to always come prepared when disputing the quality of any goods and services. So, I set my phone to record all audio and approached the retailer. I explained that my wife was upset at the quality of the engraving, and rightfully so. I requested a refund and was immediately met with resistance. To begin with, they blamed the quality of the photo we provided. Then when I disputed that, they said that laser engraving doesn't do depths very well and some faces can end up with some shadows missing. At the end of the conversation, they refused the refund and threatened to call security if I didn't leave. The engraver is located in a mall that I also happen to work in. My wife and I left. We straight away left a less than glowing review on their Google page. This was met with accusations of us being unreasonable and threatening violence. Ours was not the only review to which they had this response. They informed us that the matter had been passed on to the local police and that a restraining order had been applied for. We immediately called all local police stations and were delighted to hear that they had never heard of the company in question. After some thought and me being the stubborn guy that I am, I decided to forward the matter on the local small claims tribunal. A month or so passed and our day in a tribunal had arrived. We honestly weren't expecting the engraver to show up, but lo and behold, there he was at a civil claims court, in camel pants and a hoodie. We met in a room with a mediator, who told us that it may not be worth chasing a $40 refund from someone who's in short, a jerk. She warned that it may end up costing more than a service to begin with. But as mentioned before, I'm stubborn. We pushed forward, opting to go to the hearing. And this is when we heard some marvelous news from the engraver. "Oh, I'm not prepared to go to the hearing today. I haven't got any of my evidence." Ding ding ding. We went to a hearing that day. The registrar ruled in our favor and issued a notice of payment. The business was to pay us $40 within 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, no payment, no surprise. During this time, I have been communicating via email with the holder of the engraver's lease, who, in response to my complaint among many others, had decided to terminate the lease, effectively kicking the engraver out of the mall. While the engraver was organizing a new venue for his business, I had filed a motion for a writ for levy of property, meaning the local sheriff was able to enter his premises and relieve him of merchandise to the value of the refund plus court fees, now totaling $139. I informed the engraver, asking him if he would like to settle like a reasonable person or have the sheriff pay him a visit. He was not a reasonable person. Once a writ had been issued, the fee then increased to $225. All I had to do was wait, and wait I did, until March 13 this year, when the sheriff finally attended his new business premises. He was offered an ultimatum: pay the fee or have merchandise repossessed. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The man paid. He was stubborn for 6+ months over a $40 refund, only to be down $225 plus $5 for interest. So this just happened to me about a few weeks ago, and I'm still a bit mad about it. About my first run-in with Karen and her little goblin. For a bit of context, my next-door neighbor is Karen, a lady who is kinda known in the neighborhood for being insane. I had a run-in with her a few years ago, where her kid tried to stab my dog and she ended up getting a fine from the police. Well, this is another time we met in the wild. For a bit of context, I had run out of dog food for my dog Deuce and was running low on food in general. So I went up to my local grocery store to pick up a few things. As I'm walking around, I notice a familiar-looking lady. Having already dealt with her nonsense in the past, I figured it was best to ignore her. So I'm making my way toward my dog food section to pick up some food for my dog, and I feel what felt like a punch on my right leg. Not a hard one, but one that got me to notice and look over and guess who I see. Yep, that little gremlin ran away from his mom, recognized me and started punching my leg. I look down and say, "What are you doing, kid?" He then looks up and says, "Me and my mommy don't like you," and continues punching my leg. I just said, "Just go away," and I go about my shopping. But I can only take 2 steps before I hear, "Hey!" I turn around and this is the interaction that followed. "Yeah? What do you think you're doing talking to my son like that?" All I told him was to go away. "He was just playing." "What? You don't like it when children have fun now?" I'm pretty sure punching my leg doesn't count as a kid having fun. This is when she started to raise her voice and talk about how I'm a bad person and how I hate kids. A few people start to look over and it got to the point where a security guard noticed. This was at the front of the store, by the way. And he came over. What seems to be the issue here? "Oh, officer, thank God you're here. This evil man tried to grab my precious baby." At this point, I'm just done. So I say, "No, officer, that isn't what happened. I was just shopping and this lady's kid started punching me. Then she came over and started to yell at me. Karen, with fake tears, "Liar, liar! He tried to grab my son. Someone call the police." A few people stepped up and confirmed that Karen did start to yell at me for presumably no reason. The guard called on his radio for someone to check the security tapes. After getting a report back, he returned to Karen. "Ma'am, I'm afraid we know the truth now, and this gentleman will be the one to decide if he can end this here or to press charges on you for falsely accusing him of kidnapping." I then confirmed that I will be pressing charges, which made Karen's jaw drop, and she started to throw a tantrum like a 2-year-old, kicking and screaming and saying how I was a liar. She had to be escorted out, and the guard apologized to me and told me he will take her to the office till the cops are called, and that I can then proceed with the charges with him. My college years. Back when I was overworked, irritated and cranky. I'm still a little jerk, but I'm less cranky and overworked now. This story happened during spring tours during my junior year. Incoming prospects were being shown around campus. The engineering students, such as myself, were burned out with year-end projects, and the deans were busy bragging about how awesome this campus was and how educational it would be to come here, while neglecting to mention the price tag. Okay, I might still be a little bitter about the whole college experience thing. Anyway, my roommate and fellow engineering student Ben and I were frantically trying to finish up our lab reports in time for submission when the Dean of Engineering stormed through the big double doors to the lab. We were behind because our tutoring jobs both ran super long and we weren't allowed to leave before the students. The Dean ordered us to stop what we were doing and to clean up the lab immediately. Ben and I looked around, noting all the boxes of lab supplies that were left out by delivery people, and pointed out that A, we really needed to get this lab report done, 10% of our grade for God's sake, and B, hey, not our miss and not our job. The dean countered by saying that if we didn't comply, he will tell our lab instructor to give us zeros on the assignment anyway, that it was our fault for not being more prepared, and finished by saying, "You need to make this lab spotless. We want the tour to be memorable for these new students, and you will help to make it memorable." The lab instructor heard the last half of the rant as he walked in the door about the same time as the dean walked back out. He sighed and shook his head. "Sorry guys. Tell you what, I'll try to push back the submission deadline by an hour for you guys. Fair?" Ben and I both shrugged, already resigned to the fact that the lab instructor, while sincere, had a very minimal idea of how computers worked, and certainly had no idea how to change a submission deadline. I pushed Ben out of the way of the computer. "You start. I'll finish the bull crapping here." It was universally acknowledged that I was the best writer in the class, despite dyslexia. I had been raised by an English major mother and thus knew how to write absolute volumes about stuff I knew nothing about. In this case, I actually did know the assignment, so I figured I'd use spell check as a crutch and slam this bugger out. My roomie got started and I got typing. 45 minutes later, I had our assignment finished and submitted, so I went to go help Ben with unpacking boxes. Doofus wouldn't let me near the box crusher, knowing my habits of experimentation and recklessness. That was probably a good idea on his part. I was the lucky bugger who found a box of industrial breast masks, the big particle ones that made you look vaguely like Bane from Batman, and got a brilliant idea. Donning one, I turned to Ben. "What did the good doctor say about making the prospective's visit? Memorable?" He gave me the stink eye. "Would you stop fooling with that and help? I'm helping," I protested, pitching my voice deeper. "I'm also planning." He threw a box at my head. "Practice your evil villain monologue later. We both know I'm the anti-hero." I shot back, blocking the box. "You're the villain. You even have a goatee." He stroked it thoughtfully, looking evil. Good point. Anyways, listen, I ordered. Then in great detail, I told him my plan. Now, a little backstory. The engineering building was built into a hill. The first and second floors had both ground level access at right angles in the architecture. We were on the first floor. The double lab doors opened out to face the double doors about 12 feet away that led outside, to the east. This was so big lab equipment could be wheeled into the lab with minimal fuss. Walk up the hill and you could wrap around the building to the south entrance. Ben and I finished putting the supplies away. Then we geared up. We donned the press masks, lab goggles, full lab coats, heavy-duty chemical gloves and coveralls, shoe covers, hair covers, and the works. You could hardly tell our ethnicity, much less who were we. I opted for a breaker which I have filled with dish soup and hot water and shook like one of those shake weight TM things I saw on the late night shopping channel that one time I drank too much root beer and couldn't fall asleep. I also grabbed some tongs, because why not? Ben opted for a voltmeter that he taped random crap to and very carefully covered in foil to make it look even more scientific and scary. He coupled that with a fire extinguisher that he pulled off the wall and dipped in some dish soup suds to make it look like it had already been used. Appropriately geared up and armed, we crouched by the lab's double doors and peered through the crack between them. There was no center post. Great for spying. We were just in time. The dean was there with about 12 to 15 prospective students and their families. The perspectives looked bored. The parents looked like they were trying to feign interest. The little kids in the group were fidgety, and the dean looked pompous. It was the perfect combination. I almost ruined it by snickering, but I was able to restrain myself by biting my tongue as hard as I could. The dean was in the process of pontification on all the amazing things this lab had to offer and how we were the best engineering school in the area. We were in Midwest. It's not like there was any competition for a couple 100 miles. And how the lab that they were about to see was the safest. I was wondering why he didn't do the speech in a lab pre-framing. I guess the lab was nothing special. When Ben nudged me. Oh yeah, that was our cue. We packed up then blew through the doors like a rival linebacker through our football team's defense, screaming, "Look out! It's gonna blow!" at the top of our lungs. I made sure to slap a little foam out of my breaker as I ran, just to add to the ambience. We crashed through the outer doors and took off up the hill and around the side of the building. Glancing back as we took the corner, I saw the first of the perspectives, the ones with reflexes faster than our team's defense, apparently running away from the building. Ben and I made tracks. We got in the south doors, ran down the back stairs, and re-entered the lab from the other side. The double lab doors had swung shut in our absence, but a peek through the crack showed that it wouldn't have mattered. The dean was outside trying to round up the tour, who had scattered to the four winds. We stripped off our gear in record time. I accidentally pantsed myself. I was in such a hurry, and put everything away. We rinsed out the beakers. Ben tossed the voltmeter chimera in his bag for breakdown later, and I hung the extinguisher back up. Then we grabbed a few textbooks and sat down at one of the tables, pretending to be studious. I told Ben to turn his book right side up for more realism. We didn't have to hurry. It was a good 5 minutes before the doors opened and the dean entered, leading the dubious tour. Man, if looks could kill, we would have been dead and buried on the spot. He ushered the tour through awfully quickly, given the length of his prior speech, and gave us one last disclair as he headed out the other side. A couple of the kids looked at me questioningly. I winked at them and they nodded, started snickering, and continued on their merry way. Ben and I were recipients of a lecture later from the dean on proper decorum and taking pride in our school or some such baloney. I interrupted to ask innocently, why? Was the lab not clean enough? Or did we not do enough to make the tour memorable? Which led to our dismissal from his presence due to blood pressure issues. A new rule was added to the school shortly thereafter. In the laboratory section, students shall not handle any lab supplies without a faculty member present. However, we were never asked to. Nay, we were banned from putting new supplies away again. Got an A on the report, by the way. I'm not sure if it was good enough to warrant that, but the lab instructor had a sense of humor, and I never turned down a good grade. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.